tonight's presentation is going to be by Clarissa, and Clarissa couldn't have picked a better time for this. It's National Women's Achievement Month, and what did you say today was, Clarissa?
Is the International Women's Day.
International Women's Day. She's going to be talking on the Girl Scouts, not only in the United States, but all over the world. So with all that being said, we appreciate her doing this for us, and I'll turn it over to her.
Yeah. So before I start, if you want, I'm wearing my vest.
Yes.
With all the patches that I earned for 20 years of being a Brownie leader.
Yeah.
Brownie being the little girls in elementary school. As I said, I was a Girl Scout leader for 20 years and involved in other activities as Girl Scout. And I was a Girl Scout as a kid as well when I was a young girl. So obviously I want to collect the postcards about Girl Scouts. So to do that, let's go. So the first thing I want, for those who are not familiar, the history of Girl Scout actually started by the Boy Scouts. It was founded in Great Britain in 1907 by Robert Baden-Powell, who became a lord later on. He was already a general and lieutenant general and known for having fought for England's a cavalry officer, and he decided to create something for the boys that were between 11 and 14 years old. When he was doing that, he discovered that the girls were sneaking in on their camping because they wanted also to participate. Therefore, he just asked his sister, Agnes, to start the Girl Guides Association. And in 1910, so she did. She was a president for a while and get this organization going. In 1912, Lord Baden-Powell married Olaf St. Clair Soames, and therefore he asked her to become the president of the Girl Guides. And she did until very late, all her life, she ended up continuing dealing with the Girl Guides. I heard of traveling when she was on the 80s years old. Obviously, she was a lot younger than her husband, and therefore she survived him. In this postcard that you see here, you can see the couple, Lord Baden-Powell and his wife, that were the chiefs. And here I show two postcards that were commemorating the 100th anniversary of the Scout movement, where you can see Lord Baden-Powell on the postcard. And here, of course, also the Girl Guides, but it was in 2010. And I was very surprised on this postcard to find that actually this lady here is Juliet Law. I will tell you more about her, but remember, Juliet Law, called Daisy as a nickname. She was born October 31, 1860 in Savannah, Georgia. Her father was a cotton broker, but he was also joined the Confederate State Army to fight the American Civil War in 1861. So she was barely a year old. Her mother was Eleanor Lacy Kinsey, and a writer, but whose family played a role on the founding for Chicago. So she was the second of 6 children. Living in Savannah, Georgia during the Civil War, with her father away, the family was in jeopardy at some point, and the General William Sherman arranged for the family to escape to Chicago in March 1865. And thank you for President Andrew Johnson, because of his amnesty proclamation in 1868, the father finally was reunited with the family, and they all moved back to Savannah, Georgia. Juliet was partially deaf, so this created, awareness for handicapped, and she was aware of that, so that Girl Scout was always open to everybody. In 1886, she married William McKay Law, and it was not a happy marriage. Lo died just shy of when she was filing for a divorce. That make that she inherited all his fortune, and that was what she used to continue her quest for the Girl Scouts. She died in 1927 at the age of 66. So this is another portrait of very famous portrait of Julia Law, hangs in her house in Savannah, Georgia, that we'll see later. And it was taken in 1887 when she was only 27 years old. And it is a gown, and here you see it better. These are all postcards, and the gown that she was presented to the Queen Victoria, that's what she wore. So she founded the Girl Scout because married with Law, she was going back and forth with England and United States. So when she was in England, she met Lord Baden-Powell, and she got involved in Scotland, where they had a property with the Girl Scout there, and realized that that was a very valid movement for helping girls and women to reach their potential. So she came back to Savannah, Georgia in March 1912 and called her niece and says, I got something for the girls of Savannah and of all America and all the world, and we're going to start it tonight. And that's how was the first meeting of the Girl Guides. She relentlessly traveled everywhere to try to promote this organization. And while she was away, the girls, the first troop, number 1, in Savannah, Georgia, said that they would not want to be Girl Guides being something that more mild than a scout who goes and daring to really find what's happening in the front of the problems. And they said they want to be Girl Scouts. And so in 1915, they became Girl Scouts. The story says that she fought long time, Boys of Boy Scout and other, to say, yes, we are Girl Scouts and not Girl Guides. This is her house where she was born and is now headquarters for the Girl Scouts. This is her childhood bedroom, who is still visible today if you visit as a museum. Well, Girl Scout is still strong 111 years later. Today is March, so March 2012 or March 2023. And there is over 2.5 million strong. There are 1.7 million Girl Scout girls, and then the other are adults. In the world, there are 10 million girls in 152 countries. And it says that 50 million American women alive today participated in Girl Scouts growing up. Statistics says that a lot of the people that are astronauts or in Congress, there's a high percentage of people of girls or women that were Girl Scout as kids. And postcards are still always alive because this is a postcard that is today sold in a set of 3 for girls that want to send back news from campsites. So the first quarter on GSUSA in Savannah, Georgia, was, of course, nearby her house, Gordon Law. It was basically the remodeled carriage house behind the house of her house. And as you can see here, some of the girls are nearby, and then the flags. So then she moved the headquarters to Washington, D.C., being the capital, and she took a monthly rent of she moved to headquarters, so she took a residence in this building, and she had 1 room, a monthly rent of $15, and she spent $12 for a sign on the door. This is a Muncie building, for those who don't know Washington, D.C., on between the 13th and 14th streets. And it was built in 1905 by commissioned by Frank Muncie, who was a, newspaper publisher. In 1992, it was destroyed, demolished, and now there is a National Place building in its place. Then she decided to move the headquarters to New York because everybody was in New York, including the Boy Scout. So she said that she had to be in New York as well. This is the only postcard of a building of, as you can see, she moved very often. The headquarters moved quite a few times over the years in New York always, and is still in New York today. But there is only one postcard that I found, and this one has a asterisk. I saw it reproduction in a book, but I never seen it. So this is headquarters, and now we are in 425th Avenue, but I have no postcard of that time. So now, talking about the postcard that were edited by GSUSA, with Girl Scout of USA. There is a book that do all the collection and has a strong chapter on postcard. And unfortunately, the second edition is 2005. Therefore, there is nothing cataloged after that. But nevertheless, so the first postcard that was ever edited, and it was in to be sold 1920, 1925. I don't have it. It's just a symbol of the Girl Scout, and it's just barely blank on the other side, but I never saw it. The next set that we'll be looking at is 1922, and is silhouette postcards. So these are the silhouette postcards, and they are designed by Jessie Gillespie, who was an American illustrator, and she did a lot of magazine and books for illustration, and she has this typical thing of, can you say, silhouettes. Now you will say, why do I show you twice the same postcard with 2 different years? But if you look closely, I know you can't talk because I can't hear you, but closely, what is the difference? So I'll tell you, the hats. In 1922, the Girl Scout has a hat that looks like this, and then they went to like a beret, and that's where they redid all the series of postcard, and they changed only one of postcard on the series where they changed the hat. On the back, you will see that also it reflects the 2 different logos, one with a little the big hat and one with a beret. This is is one of the postcards on this series. I like this one because it has a long message by one of the Girl Scouts that sent it. It says, and one example is Monday, an English girl guides, the same as Girl Scout. She specified to her parents, visited our camp. She taught us songs. And as you can see, it's one of the earlier one because the logo is with a large hat. The next set is a 4 season. I never saw them. This is from a book. This is a 4 season. If anybody see them, let me know. The next one is a Girl Scout Promise and Low, and I have most of them. So this one, this set was designed by Eddie Ballinger. Eddie Ballinger was a prolific writer and illustrator of children's books. And she was also very instrumental in helping starting the Brownie Girl Scout. And for those who are not a Scout, the Brownies are the girls that are in 2nd or 3rd, and at one time 1st and 2nd and 3rd grader in elementary school. They are the youngest, one of the youngest Girl Scouts. So as you can see there, she uses this very elaborate Gothic. One thing that you will notice, the promise, although it's always promised 3 things, as always, they are worded different than what we use today. And the postcard have a little large hat. And these were in 1925 to 1938, where you can find them. In 1914, Julia Law decided to design a logo, a special logo on the trefoil. The trefoil always represent the three things that we promise as a Girl Scout. And she patented it in February 10, 1914. And this is a blow up of the logo that she did patent. In 1921, the Girl Scout of USA would like to have the logo and have the patent or the license. And Juliet said, yes, you can have it, provided that in perpetuity, she will be recognized in print and public statement as the organization founder. And so it did. We always talk about her. And then this is the logo where you can see the trefoils. Those were the three things that we promised. And then each part has a symbol. The eagle, of course, is a Great Seal of the United States. The shield signifies self-reliance. The olive branch, peace. The shaft of arrow is a symbol of might. And the eagle faces right because it faces toward honor, toward peace. And the eagle and the shield inside the trefoil signify that Girl Scouts stand ready to serve their country. So more on Eddie Ballinger. So once the logo was adopted and the trefoil, as you can see, she changes her promise when the trefoils appear. And this one are more depicting what the Girl Scouts actually are doing, as opposing what they are than the Gothic things that she was using before. And on the back of the postcard, you have the postcard, the new logo. The next set is by Vera Bloch. She was also, she was a Russian Empire born artist who spent most of her career in the United States. And she's known for books, illustration, and posters that she made for the Work Progress Administration during the Great Depression. And she also illustrated children's books. As you can see, you can have the logo here, and you can see it here again. Small things about the law. In the past, the law was always a Girl Scout honor is, a Girl Scout Scout is, and so forth. The one I underline is a Girl Scout to every Girl Scout, no matter social class she may belong, which is very progressive for the time. That is not something for the certain people or certain reach. And this is why we have a Margaret Evans series that says a Girl Scout is kind, a Girl Scout honor is to be trusted. And there is, I think, a set of 3 or 4 postcards. I never saw them. This is a reproduction from a book. The promise has changed over the year. The law has changed over the year. And I will say I do my best, and it is at least a Girl Scout is no longer used. A Girl Scout, another one, 1973, is a Girl Scout law. There is no designer. I have no idea who did it. But the law has changed and the promise has changed as well, as you can see, but it's still different than what we use today. Aim or the goals is the same, but the words are differently described. And the logo on the back has changed again. And now is a trefoil, but simplified, we say is a Girl Scout. The next set that I talk about is the brownie postcards. And I completed as of this weekend. When I was at the grass to a fair, I found the 3 missing postcards. So Eddie Ballinger, again, designed this one for the brownies, which has a smaller promise at the beginning. And then the law is a little simplified. Nowadays, the brownies also do the same law and everything. And you can see the elf and the owl, which is part of the story of the brownies. And the back is a little hat. So these postcards are past 1928. These are the postcards that I was missing and I found this weekend. They are from Eddie Ballinger. And this one depicts the legend of the brownies, which she's supposed to be an elf that does good things in the house. But this little girl was not doing anything, and she was wondering how she became a brownie and how she can find a brownie to help her parents. She went into the woods, found a pond, and the little owl here told her to turn 3 times and then look in the pond and she will see a brownie. And of course, she saw herself. And at first, I was very disappointed that this postcard was glued on a piece of paper. But when I discovered what was written on the bottom, I decided to keep it on the piece of paper. Somebody has wrote it became a brownie on May 1935. And this is a postcard blown up where you can see the girl looking on the water to find her elf. The other two postcards are this one. So they were rank that were used from 1924, 1937 for brownies. And so the first one is the golden ground and then the golden hand. Basically, the golden ground, you are ready to help, and the golden hand, you are serving because now you're progressed. And again, these were glued on piece of paper. And again, this one was received golden bar in October 1936. On the golden hand, there is no dates. I wonder is because they stopped using in 37 that the little girl could not manage to reach it before they were no longer used. So the next step is a camp postcard. This is a larger set of postcard. There is 127 and I have them all. So 127 postcard, they dated from 1936 to 1973. Girl Scout was editing the beginning 8 postcard per year. And then eventually they only did 4 or even 3, when probably towards 73, the girls had less interest to buy this postcard. So as you can see, they all can be recognized because they have this green design that at the beginning, it doesn't use the whole space. Although in 1936, as we know, the back were divided. So we could use the back to write, but I suppose they wanted the girls to write a longer message. So the back of the logo, this little girl, she wrote, keep on writing all the messages. So she had a long message. And of course, it had the logo of the Girl Scout, the new one. And there are very few of these postcards that are actually signed. So actually, I don't know who designed them over the years, but there are a few that are. So this one is signed by ED and one by Duval. I could not find who these two designers were, but there were, in 1939, there were 8 postcards, 3 by ED and 5 by Duval. If you can see, they are the same kind of style, although this picture takes more space on the front, and this one leave still some possibility to write in the front. This one are just 2 that I like. One, clearly the girls have painted the card before sending it. And then this one, I found it really funny. She's wondering how she can get to the next stone because there is a turtle. This one is one of the other that few that are signed by Ag. And I like this card. You can see the owl, which is still representative in Girl Scout. And then also she's dreaming ice cream in the middle of the night. Starting in 1949, or as you can see, the postcard were not for 1 year, but this postcard were edited for 2 years in a row. And they were the same postcard for the same year. They were not re-edited or new design on the other years. And the back are nothing to do with the logo or anything. They are just fun. Stamp here with a little rabbit stamping. Again, this I want in 1950, they start to use paper that was not neutral, but colored. So this is an example. Have a wonderful time at camp of different things. And this one, I found it funny. She's flipping her pancake and the raccoon is ready to eat it. And the back is different than the previous one, which again, it has a little rabbit chewing and message here, address here. And I don't know what is under the stamp, but could be the rabbit with stamping. again, is colored. The scanner made it a little bit more wild than it is in reality. But nevertheless, the backing is also stamped here with two feet and the little rabbit out against the woods. This, like you see, is the 6 years where they're the same postcard. And actually, there were only 4 postcard edited for those 4 years. So 4 postcard, and they were repeated the same for all these years. And here we only had 3 postcards that were edited on that time and for 4 years in a row. And that was the end. The back is also more interesting with all these animals. Thinking Day, the last set, but there is more after that. So again, this one is, so first thing, what is Thinking Day? Thinking Day is a day commemorating the birthday of Lord Baden-Powell and Olaf. Both him and his wife had the same birth date, which is February 22nd. And Thinking Day is a day where the girls do something to think or to appreciate the life on other countries. And it started in 1927. You will see more, remember these dates about it. And these are 2 first postcards that were edited, 1932, 1941. One is for the Brownies, and one was for the Girl Scouts, the older girls that have a different uniform with the American flag. Brownie was started in 1922, so 10 years earlier than this postcard was made. WAGs, which is a word association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. I know it's a mouthful. It covers basically the 152 countries that they have Girl Scout or Girl Guides. So again, Thinking Day, they have, this postcard has the word United, Girl Scout and Girl Guide on the word United throughout. And this logo is the logo of the WAGs. It has all these parts have a symbol. The 3 foil, again, is a 3 promise. And then the 2 star represent 1 for the promise and 1 for the law. And then there is more symbolism. If you want, I can show to you later. And then this one started with the Girl Scouts logo with a eagle, and then goes around the world, and it becomes a girl WAGs symbol, which is basically our thought takes wing on Thinking Day. And this one on the 15th, this one was on the 40s. Of course, for International Women Year, they have a special postcards for Thinking Days in 1975. And again, with the symbol of the trefoil. And this one was the last Thinking Day official postcard that I know of, which is 1993. And it has basically the girls with all the uniform all over the countries. And on the back, it says in 3 languages, that is Thinking Day. And this logo for Thinking Day is kind of small here. So I use a patch to show you what it is. It has a logo of the WAGs in the center, and then arrow pointing to it to say Girl Scout and Thinking Day United. Unofficial, but Thinking Day still go on. 2009, I found this postcard. And the Girl Scout do have postcard in their activities because they have postcard exchange. And every year you can have a logo. This is the most recent I found, 2013. So I'm not sure there are patches on previous later dates, but there is a website on Facebook that asks for girls to exchange postcards across states and countries. There are official, of course, non-officially Girl Scout postcards. They don't use the USA logo. So these 2 sets, I show you one of each. One was mailed in 1943, and I found it really fun design, having a swell time at camp. And this one was mailed in 1952, and the girls that mail it decided to make color by hands the postcards. celebrating 75th anniversary, there was a special postcard, Girl Scouts tradition with a future. And as you can see on the back, it says 1912 to 1987, and it was mailed and even has to be forwarded. And in that year, there was a Girl Scout stamp that was edited for it. And 22 is because at that time in 1987, the postage costed 22 cents. Centennial 2012, this is an oversized postcard with two stamps, one in 1948 commemorating Juliet Gordon Law. And then in 2012, there was a postage stamp that was also designed and edited or published by USPS. And on the back, there is a long description of all what Girl Scout is all about. And you can recognize WAGs in the middle as well. Girl Scout has a convention basically every 3 years or so. So I have a couple of these postcards that were edited specifically for the convention. So this is the 33rd convention. They were in San Francisco, California. And then on 1996, they were in Fort Worth, Texas. And in this case, they used a picture of the assembly, while this one was a view of the town. And this one, at first you're saying, well, it's just this view of a city. And actually, if you look on the back, it was printed specifically for the convention, the 42nd convention in 1981, including a cancellation, Girl Scout Council 42nd convention. As you say, Girl Scouts are still strong and publishing postcard. This was published in 2012. It's a set of 12. I picked 2. And the author is Joanna McCordy. She's from California, and she graduated from San Diego University. And she does graphic design as a freelance. And she was definitely asked to design for the Girl Scouts. For the older Girl Scouts, seniors being there in high school, there were roundups. And the idea was to have a roundup every 3 years. Unfortunately, there were only 4 roundup until it was decided that there is no need to have a national or international roundup, but just local scouting will do their camping. So this is the 1956 roundup in Michigan. And on the back, it says, I'm sure having a good time camping with girls from Montana, Georgia, and New York, and gave a pin to Miss Layton, president of National GS ceremony course. She was the actual president at the time in 1956. We have Colorado 459. So this one postcard was a very special postcard for it. And the other one, they again took view and then put a strip around it to signify the Girl Scout Senior Roundup. Same, these two, one was for Vermont and the other one was in Idaho for 62 and 65, which was the last one. Girl Scout has also 4 world centers from WAGs. So one is in Mexico, England, India, and Switzerland. And as you can see on the slide here, when they were created, I put them in the order of the postcard, not the dates. So the most older one is 32 in Switzerland, Mexico, then India, and the last one in England. Mexico, they are still operating today. Mexico, for now, is closed. It closed during the pandemic and it hasn't reopened. The other 3 are reopened. This is an example of our cabana which is a Mexico center, where all the girls will show their flags. The idea is to reunite girls from all different countries. And our chalet in Switzerland, which is the only center that actually I visited. And so this postcard was directly bought on location. And it looks like a chalet Candersburg International Scout Center is in Switzerland. In 1920, Lord Baden-Powell decided that we need a first international scout center where scouts from all over the country, boys and girls, can reunite and meet and do things together. So everybody was trying to look for a place where that could be done. And the chief scout of Switzerland, Walter von Bonstetten, discovered a derelict chalet in Candersburg. And the chalet was left over from the workers that lived there for doing a tunnel. Once the tunnel was built, the chalet and other structure were abandoned. Well, it found that they could use it. And therefore, this is Candersburg International Scout Center was in Switzerland. And this is how it looks today. So it was started, the first opening was in 1923. So just 3 years after Lord Baden-Powell decided, I would like to have an international scout center, it was done. In the United States, there is a couple of centers. Eddie Macy Center is in New York and is still operating today, although they added a conference center in the 1982 to probably open to, for financially being more solvent by opening to exterior groups. This was 400-acre site that was donated by the husband of Eddie Carpenter Macy, who was the chair of the Girl Scout National Board of Directors for quite a few years, in 19 to 1925. Once she died, her husband, Everett Macy, was a philanthropist and industrialist and decided to donate those land for the for the Girl Scouts, and is still in operation today, as I said. So this is a great hall, and this is depict a simple, of course, girls cooking in a kitchen outdoor. The center is also famous for these steps, we are calling the singing steps, where the participant will sit on the steps or stand on the steps and sing. It has also another great information, is that it was this is where the first United States International World Camp, and is the last gathering attended by Juliette Gordon-Law in 1926. She died a year later. And they established that February 22nd was a World Thinking Day. It is a pretty holy ground, so to speak, for Girl Scout. Is a very interesting spot. Rockwood has a different story that actually discovered even very recently some little details. So this was property just outside Washington, D.C. in just is in Maryland, in Potomac, Maryland. And Caroline Gonier, I'm not sure I pronounce it correctly, built it. She just was rich and socialite in Washington and decided to build a mansion outside the capital for herself. In 1936, she wielded the property to the GSUSA and not to the Girl Scout of DC chapter, because she absolutely wanted that the girls of any race, any culture could be going there. Girl Scout of DC at the time were discriminating against African-American girls, telling them that they could not attend camp and they could not attend swimming pools as the other girls. And she specifically specified in her will that the camp has to be open to everybody. And so the only organization that could do that was GSUSA and not the Washington, D.C. And apparently was used for years for girls on all kinds of states in the United States that were going to this camp because their local chapters will not allow the girls to use the Girl Scout camp for camping because they were a minority. In 1938, it was become a Girl Scout National Center and a 52 in National Camp, keeping always the same idea of integration. And then unfortunately, in 1979, it was sold to the Montgomery County Park. Therefore, now is no longer a Girl Scout Center, is a national park, county park that anybody can visit. And this is another picture of the mansion that she built. And this postcard from 1966. Better Homes and Little House. Not sure how much you know about this, but I discovered that second Better Home Demonstration Week in June 1923 happened in Washington, D.C. And after so they were building houses to show how normal American could live and what technology and other things they could use better for their house. And so at the end of the exhibition in Washington, D.C., this house was donated to the Girl Scouts, but it was on the mall in Washington, D.C. There was no way they could stay there. Therefore, General Federation Women's Club donated the money to the Girl Scout to move it to here. So for those who are not familiar for Washington, D.C., this is where the White House is. This is where in general area where the house was for the exhibits, and then it was moved here. Not an easy task, as you can see. This figure is not a postcard, it's a picture, but probably there were no postcard made, but I thought it was too interesting to not show it. The Girl Scout of DC operated until 1945. Then it was on GSUSA and it was demolished in 1970. The scope of these houses for the Girl Scout was to be able to teach the girls all the things that they can do in the house and all the skills they need to do all the cooking and cleaning and other things. And there were some office space as well for Girl Scout of DC. And there were over 100 little houses all over the United States. This one was dedicated by Herbert Hoover in 1922, but there were hundreds all over the states that were managed by Girl Scouts for a long time. Anybody who wanted one, they can have one. No, s'mores. Probably everybody's famous for s'mores, with his ground cracker, chocolate, and marshmallows roasted on a campfire. The first publication of the recipe of the s'mores, it was 1927. It's called Some S'mores. And it's only in 71 that it became s'mores. And as you can see, it's still active or to use it. This was sent to myself, not by me. It was sent to me as a Girl Scout leader to tell me that they were having a fundraiser and National S'more Days on August 10. And then also August 10, they have another special campfire on Camp Woodland, which is a camp here in Maryland, where I camp very often with my girls. Cookie sale. Everybody knows Girl Scout and cookie sale. I don't have any postcard with cookie, but I found this very interesting. Actually, was chocolate mixture. And for everybody who likes chocolate, apparently is since 1936 that there were industrial bakers for cookies, but the girls start baking cookie immediately from 1912 to raise funds for their activities. And I read a statistic, 170 million boxes of cookies a year are sold. That's a lot of cookies. And I will finish with Camp Whippoorwill, Pasadena, but there are hundreds of postcards of all the camps in the United States. Everywhere there is a lot of camps have more than multiple postcards that show girls in all kinds of activities. There are so many that I limit myself on collecting the one in Maryland. And this one is dear to my heart because I did camp there. And fortunately, these platform tents now are being destroyed by one of the hurricanes that came through the area. Nevertheless, I found this rest hours very interesting. And this one It's a brownie working on craft, a Camp Whippoorwill. It could have been my troop. Obviously, it was taken before my troop was there, but it's perfectly, so it's very special. And with that, I thank you, and I'll let you with all the logos, and this is a newer one with all the logos that Girl Scout used over the years.
Thank you so much, Clarissa. That was great. That was great. I've got a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. Is the you mentioned that they had roundups. Is that the same as jubilees that that the Boy Scouts have? Is that the same idea?
The same idea is to get a lot of girls together. These are only for the senior Girl Scout. The Boy Scout have a lot of jamboree and other gathering. We have them, but very few. There's not as many, so big as a Boy Scout do, and not as regularly.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? Please go ahead. If you have any questions, ask.
Oh, Clarissa, now I want you to do that with my other group too.
Sure.
I am the leader of two Trefoil Guilds, just kind of senior retired Girl Guide leaders. Some of them have I'm in Canada, so it's Girl Guides, not Girl Scouts here. And anyways, I had Clarissa come to one on scouting from the First World War. So and that was kind of neat that Tony did. But I just wanted to add something else. You were saying Lady Baden-Powell, she was 35 years younger than her husband when they got married. That's why she was around a lot longer.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, in Canada, as of about 3 weeks ago, we're no longer allowed to call the 7 and 8 year olds brownies. It is banned in Canada. We just changed their names to Embers because I guess a lot of the Indians and Pakistan people, everyone was calling them brownies. So we had to get rid of that. And then in hockey and stuff like that, we had bantams and midgets and all that. That's all gone. It's all just called under this age, under 7, under 9 and everything else. So everything's really, really changing, especially up here.
That's a shame. That's really a shame.
But I gladly, the presentation is made, so I can easily give it again somewhere.
Well, that's just it. You've done a lot of work. That was great.
Yeah, I want to say too that I'm a Girl Scout troop leader. It's so funny that I'm just here today with my dad. But yeah, amazing. I didn't realize that the laws and the promise were so different a long time ago. Especially the laws that had changed so much.
But the law changed even while I was Girl Scout.
Oh, okay.
They changed it a little bit even more recently. So
Okay.
it's the same idea. It's the same. The law is the same law, so to speak, but it's rearranged.
Yeah, it's rearranged.
Make it easier for the girls to remember it. I don't know.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And then, do you have postcards of the Girl Scout camps in the San Jose here area, the Skylark Ranch or Hidden Falls, or?
If you go to eBay, you can type Girl Scout and any camp you want, and you can find them. There is tons of postcard about all the camps. There's no way for me to keep a collection of all those.
Yeah.
So I kept the one in Maryland, the one that I am familiar with, and
one of our camps
concentrated on the other postcards.
One of our camps here had a big fire in 2021. In 2021, one of the main camps in the Santa Clara area here, or on the coast, Skylark Ranch. So that was sad, yeah. But they're rebuilding it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Patrick?
I have a comment and a question. Thank you, Clarissa, for that. For your talk. I'm actually, it was very interesting to me because in the 90s I was a leader at that time it was co-ed. It had turned co-ed, Campfire Boys and Girls. And I wonder if you can kind of want to talk or discuss any, because I think actually Campfire Girls was like a year ahead of Girl Scouts, or maybe a couple years. And then they were a parallel organization for a long time. And so it was very interesting. And then I think in the 60s, it kind of peaked. And then nowadays you'd be hard pressed to find campfire boys and girls anywhere. They've kind of died out, which is really kind of sad. But I just I wonder if you know anything of that history, because it's just kind of interesting to me.
So the Campfire Girls, if I understood correctly, I don't know their history, are also inspired by Baden-Powell and Olav, but they are a different organization. So they may have been co-ed. Girl Scout was never co-ed, and so far will never be. The Boy Scout have become co-ed in part recently, which Girl Scouts are very furious about that, but there's nothing they can do. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The fact is that United States, we have a very strong Girl Scout and Boy Scout organization that cover the whole country. This is almost unusual. In Italy, you have 4 or 5 organizations that are Girl Scouts, whatever name they adds to it to distinguish themselves, because people have started their group independently of each other. In some country, they have the Catholic Boy Scout or Girl Scout, and the Jewish Girl Scout and Boy Scout, and the non-religious one, and whatever. So each one have their own flavor, and very often they are co-eds in Europe.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that the Campfire Girls never went overseas. And maybe they didn't have the personnel to do that or whatever. It was just all United States. Yeah, it's just interesting how these different organizations evolve. I did note one last little comment. I did notice on one of your postcards it said Campfire Council. Now that to that term is every year that the Campfire Girls had their end of the year ceremony. And they would give awards, and they would call that their council. So I'm wondering, on that postcard you showed, was there a Girl Scout logo on the back?
Where I have to find out which one will it be.
I'm sure there was I'm sure there was some borrowing in between the organizations at different, I mean.
So there were some, the first part of my presentation, all the postcards have a logo on the back. And then, I hope I can share.
Yeah, well, it's not a big deal. I was just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, this one don't have a logo on the back.
Yeah, the one that says Council Fires. Yeah, because that was something that the Campfire Girls had every year. That was called Council Fire.
So you may be right. It might not be a Girl Scout. I assumed it was a Girl Scout by the way their uniforms.
Yeah.
That way the girls has depending, but you're maybe I didn't realize, but yeah, you may be right. It might not be this is not an official girl. No, it doesn't have the logo on the back. It's not. So maybe you're right. Maybe that's a Campfire postcard.
Anyway, you're my last comment. You're to be commended for being a leader for 20 years. I think that is so great. I enjoyed being a leader when I did it. I kind of wish I still did it, but I hope you keep on doing it.
No, I'm a life member, but I'm not involved.
Okay. Well, thanks for 20 years anyway.
Yeah. And Julia Lowe was very strong on going. So Girl Scout of USA has troops in Germany, in Japan, and other countries that are usually associated with the military that are in those countries.
Oh, okay.
So they are a branch of, as a council that is Girl Scout overseas. That will be and so probably not everybody. Otherwise, WAGs is the association of all Girl Scout and Girl Guide, but it's not depending on USA. USA is just one person,
right?
One organization. So Patrick, you were patient, sorry.
Hi. Yeah, I was just gonna, I was in the Boy Scouts, and well, Cub Scouts, Webelos, Boy Scouts, and then my sister was in the Girl Scouts, and I used to help her with her cookies. So we would fill up the living room with cookies because she would sell literally over 1,000 boxes of cookies. For
Oh,
real.
wow.
I mean, she had she was a very organized business person with her cookies. And so when those orders came in, I mean, it was over 1,000 boxes. I mean, it was big. But one thing I went and grabbed, so there was a jamboree or whatever, and one year, and I traded my uniform with a kid from Japan.
Oh,
And so I just happened to have the uniform. I've been going through stuff, and I had so he was from Kyoto, and so there's his deal. And what was interesting is, at that time, we didn't have eBay. You couldn't trade or get all this stuff, but seeing a uniform from somewhere else at that time was just a big deal. And to see these patches and all this was so different. And he was amazed by my uniform. And I was just like, take it, and of course, all my friends were like, you were going to get in so much trouble. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. And then we were there for a whole week, and I was the one wearing this uniform. I was wearing this, and he was wearing mine with, I kept my sash, with the merit badges because I couldn't figure out those. But so that week, and we were friends, we kept waving to each other while we passed in our old uniforms. But it was a lot of fun, and it's always been fun to have this uniform. And of course, it's been 5,000 years later, I still have this uniform. I know it's not a postcard, but it's the fun of scouting. And whether it's Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, it's just scouting, period. And bringing those communities together from different countries. We didn't speak the same language, but we communicated, and it was fine, and he wanted to trade, and I'm like, all right, and nobody else traded. There was no one else that traded uniforms in that whole camp.
Girl Scout have the habit to have what are they called? Swaps. So basically, a girl, before going to one of these major events, they will make 20, 40, hundreds, whatever little things. So each one is made by the girls, and she'll have something which says the troop number and the country where she's from.
Oh, okay.
And then they will swap. So they will have a hat, especially these days, a baseball hat. And then you pin it to it. So eventually you will have, swaps from all country, from other places.
Cool.
And it's also where I learned how to play poker. Not that I'm a great poker player, but it's like in Boy Scouts, we learned to play poker, and we were using M&Ms for our, our medium that we were trade with and all that. Those are the great things of scouting. You can't do that anywhere else. But thank you very much for your presentation. It was excellent. And those are the joys of scouting.
Yeah, I know.
Clarissa, I was going to ask you, with all the cards that you were showing, I'm assuming that most of those same cards were printed in other languages. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. Those are American postcards. So.
Oh, I thought they were kind of universal, and they just printed the same images with different languages. That's what I was thinking. Well,
the first set of my talk is all Girl Scout USA postcards. So there were 4 Girl Scout in USA. I did not show I mean, probably the worst center, you will find postcard with a legend on different language. At Candersburg, probably different language because it's a international center. But the rest was mainly United States postcards. So no, they are in English. But I'm sure if you look, there will be postcards on other countries, which will be used on their own language. The big difference, I think I don't know if it's a handicap, but is that because we had USA for the whole country, and we are huge compared to France, Italy, we can produce postcard and then all the girls in all the camps will use them, while in a smaller group that only cover south of Italy, they may not have produced that many postcards because it's only a few, the number of kids was limited. So it would have been maybe not financially wise, or I don't know.
Right.
So I don't know. I haven't looked. Maybe I should search for Italian Boy Scout, but they were, but maybe not as many. More not different or camps.
That's interesting. Both of my girls were involved in the brownies. They never went on to scouting, but they were involved with the brownies. So
brownies are scouting.
Yeah.
Brownies are considered Girl Scout. A Girl Scout starts with Daisy in kindergarten and ends with senior and lifetime.
Yeah.
Different levels, which Daisy brownie. So your girls were Girl Scout, but they were brownies.
Yep.
Brownies.
Yep. That's fun. Yeah. Any other questions for Clarissa regarding her talk?
I just want to say thank you, Clarissa. I had no idea that there were that many postcards of scouting.
Oh, okay.
And you did a tremendous job. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, she's right. I've looked through a lot of boxes, and I'm sure all of us have. I don't remember seeing anything on Girl Scout postcards.
There is every dealer that I go to, they have Girl Scouts postcards.
Yeah.
They have a section, but usually Boy Scout are more. There are more postcards of Boy Scout than on Girl Scout. I don't know what happened. Maybe the girls kept it. The one big able to finish some of the series is because one dealer had bought a collection from a lady that collected Girl Scout postcard for years.
Wow.
None of her kids wanted the collection, so she sold it. And now the dealer is, of course, selling it further. And that's where in 3 different occasions, I don't know if she doesn't put them all out at the same time. I'm not sure, or I'm learning more by researching. I learn a lot about what postcards are available in Girl Scout by doing the stock, because I had to, search and finalize who was the designer and everything. So even this Saturday on Ever the Grass in Maryland, where I went for the show, I found 3 postcards I have never seen for sale, 4 postcards I'd never seen for sale before.
Wow.
It's amazing what you can find, I tell you. It really is.
In
Well,
eBay, I never saw in eBay, never appeared. Not even that I didn't lose or it was too expensive no, never
Yeah.
seen. But this lady had them, so I was lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you from all of us. I'm sure you just did a great job, and we appreciate it very much, and we learned a lot. I certainly never realized how much was out there regarding the Girl Scouts, but it was a real education. So we appreciate it very much. Thanks,
You're
Clarissa.
welcome. And if you find any Girl Scout postcards, send them my way.
Yeah, oh, you bet. You bet. I'll be looking.
Especially the one with the logo.
Yep.